So winter is a great time to grow veggies in a hot climate like where I live in Florida, because we have basically the perfect weather during winter. We get very, very few frosts, if any at all. Last year I didn't get a single one. And most of the time our pest pressure is much lower. Believe it or not, down here in the South, we go the entire season and we have pests the entire season. So winter is the least amount of pests, so that's when we like to grow the most vegetables. And we get to grow all the traditional things, you know, like the broccoli and the kale and the carrots. It's so much fun. So today I want to show you all the vegetables that I'm growing in my winter garden and the varieties that I like. And I got my handy dandy seed case out. I have way too many seeds. Way too many seeds. But I'm trying to keep myself from buying too many lately. So let's jump right into it. We're going to talk all of the brassicas. And so let's start with Brussels sprouts. I have grown Brussels sprouts successfully in my winter garden. Brussels sprouts and celery are two kind of hard ones because they really like cold temperatures, like long periods of cold temperatures, and we just don't get that. So I've been on the mission and the hunt to find the most heat tolerant of both of those things. From a Brussels sprout perspective, Jade Cross is the one that I have found that has worked. In the 3 years I've grown it, it has created sprouts all 3 years. Now, only one of those, well, 1.5, I'd say, like half the plants last year, and the year before, all of the plants produced good sized sprouts. I was very happy with that. Year before that, they were too tiny to do anything with. But I'm trying a new one this season called Green Gem. It's a hybrid. It has a very quick 85 to 95, that's quick for Brussels sprouts, to grow the sprouts. So I'm hoping that with the speed and the fact that it is heat tolerant, that it will do good. So we're going to test both of those out. From a cabbage perspective, I've grown the red acre, I've grown the green acre, but the one that I really love the most, just because of how consistently it produces, and I just like the way it looks, is the early Jersey Wakefield cabbage. It's like conical shape. It's really cool looking. And I also like the Savoy cabbage. This is like the roughly one. The problem with the Savoy is it is pretty heat tolerant, I have found, but it does take significantly longer than the Wakefield. So I kind of treat the Wakefield as my early season crop, and then this one comes in later in the season and holds out longer. So kohlrabi, I usually grow the purple and green Vienna, but last year I grew the Conan, and I feel like it was bigger and tastier. The Vienna gets woody very fast, and I didn't particularly like that. This one is, again, a hybrid. You can see there's going to be a trend here. There's a lot of hybrids that I use now because, you know, for those cold winter vegetables, it's sometimes hard to find an heirloom that really performs well in a super hot climate. So I lean in to the hybrids when it comes to that. So Conan, I got this one from Johnny Seeds, and it did really well for me last year. I really like it, but the Vienna does fine as well, I think. From a cauliflower perspective, I have been growing the Snowball Y Improved. Got this one from flgardening.com. This one's been consistently good. It's a white cauliflower. It's pretty good at self-blanching, which means the leaves kind of cover it. It did pretty well in covering itself, although I do tend to use the leaves in like clips to like cover the head to keep it from getting yellow. So this one's been consistent for me, no problems. Now, one I grew last year that I thought was so pretty was the purple of Sicily. The thing I didn't like about the purple of Sicily was that it was very large. The snowball seems more compact. This plant gets very, very large, and it kind of takes up a lot of real estate for, you know, just kind of being pretty. I mean, it had a good yield as well. I'm going to be trying another one because I'm really into the color thing lately, and this is Clementine. It's orange, and I thought that would look so cute. So we're gonna try this one this year. Broccoli. And I feel bad even bringing this up because I feel there's no place that you could buy them at. So I feel really terrible, but I have to explain why. So I like Arcadia broccoli. I got this from Amazon. I don't typically get my seeds from Amazon, but this is the only place that I could find these. They used to be sold by Johnny Seeds. They're not produced anymore, or very few people are producing them now, so they're very hard to find. I don't even think the Amazon guy has these anymore. I bought these, I think they're like 3 years old. So the seeds are getting bad. What I did last year is I saved the seed from the plant. The problem is, this is a hybrid. So these seeds that I saved from the plant, I very much doubt that I'm gonna get the same type of plant. But I wanna test it out. You never know until you try, right? So I'm gonna have a little spot in my garden to test that out. But I still have some of these seeds and I love them. It is the most heat tolerant. It has the largest head size that I've seen, and it does like a tremendous amount of side shoots, which is once you take the head off the main head off the broccoli, it creates all these little side shoots, and it does it for like 2 months. It is superb. But I need to start finding a variety that's actually going to work, that I can still source seeds. So I looked at Johnny's and I looked at 2 different hybrids that they have. They have Green Magic and Imperial. So I'm giving these a shot. I've heard a lot of good things about Imperial, and I've heard a lot of good things about Green Magic, not from Florida growers so much, mainly from like Georgia and North Carolina growers. I've heard good things. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers and hoping that they can handle the heat like the Arcadia can. I also usually grow a lot of greens like Chinese cabbage, mustard, and kale. I'm not going to be growing those. At least I don't think so. Not right this second. Maybe later. Maybe as I move further into the winter season, I will go get them. Normally for mustards or Chinese cabbages, I go with Chai Sai or Tokyo Pecan. Those are the 2 that I like the most. Those are the ones that I've grown previously in my garden. I feel like we had an abundant amount of leafy greens last season, and I'm like, okay, that's too much. It just kind of felt wasteful. So I'm going to pull back on that. Kale, I usually grow lacinato or red Russian. They're not my favorite. They're okay. Last year I found prism kale as a start. I didn't even get to be able to save the seeds from it, but that prism kale, found it at the big box store in the Bonnie Seeds collection thing, and it did phenomenal in the heat. It was that really ruffly, leafy kale that you're looking for without the bitter taste. Or that spicy taste. It was very, very nice. I love that kale. So I wasn't able to save the seeds from the one that I had. I had 2 of them, and neither one of them went to seed. It was very odd. It must be some sort of hybrid. Maybe it is infertile. I don't know. But it never produced seeds. I tried. So I will go buy another plant because I feel like that is worth it. One plant, yes, they are expensive, but one plant kept us in kale the entire season, and I really enjoyed that particular kale. Collards, typically I grow Georgia Southern collards. So those are really nice. They do really well. They grow, and a lot of the times if you keep them alive, I mean, if you keep feeding them and stuff, they will grow through the summer. Doesn't taste the best, definitely gets a lot of pests, but once winter comes in, that all clears itself up and you can start harvesting from it again. It'll live like a perennial. It's very odd. And then turnips, I usually do the purple top globe. I don't personally like turnips that much. I really want to like turnips because they grow really easy. But they just, I don't know, it has a weird flavor for me, like the back end of the turnip flavor. But they do grow really well. Some people really love them as an alternative to potatoes. So if you're into that, you know, go for it. I don't care for them, so I'm not going to be growing them this season. We talked about celery earlier, and normally the one that I grow is a tall Utah tall, 5270R. Improved. This is, I believe, an heirloom. I don't believe it is a hybrid. This one has done well for me. I have been able to grow it. It's finicky. It's really hard when they're seedlings. So I've started them in the aero garden inside to try to give them like a nice boost and head start. And the aero garden kind of takes care of them, and I don't have to worry about them getting overwatered out here, which is what typically happens. Last year I did these. They did okay, but I also got starts from the big box store because I was worried that these weren't going to be okay. So the starts from the box store did amazing, and I believe that they also were tall Utah. They just had a better head start. I have been considering getting a different variety, but honestly, I just like the flavor of this one so much. So if I can make it work, that's my goal. From a peas perspective, I usually do Sugar Snap and I do Oregon Snow Peas. Those are 2 of my favorites. There's also a Sugar Daddy that's pretty good too. But this year I really want to grow the regular shelling peas. I want the actual pea on the inside. I don't want the pod. And so I'm going again with tall telephone. If you were with me last winter, I grew these kind of at the tail end of winter, and they did so well. They produced in abundance, and I really enjoyed the taste of the tall telephone peas. They were really good. So I saved a bunch of seeds. I'm gonna go big on these guys. Beets, I finally had success last year. Was so happy. I tried like 4 or 5 different varieties. Early Wonder Tall Top did really well, and Avalanche. There was also a Golden Detroit that did okay, but these two were the best ones. And I did find that giving them a little extra nitrogen did better. And that is so outside of like beet territory. Like, you're not supposed to give them nitrogen because then you get really big tops but no beets. But for me, it actually worked. So I don't know. Maybe it was my soil was really depleted of nitrogen. I'm not sure, but they finally did well for me. If you have trouble with beets, try giving them a little bit nitrogen. I know it goes against what people say, but it worked. Radishes, I have grown watermelon radishes and daikon radishes, but this year I'm also going to be trying Rover, which is a hybrid, and Cherry Bell. I hear Cherry Bell does very well down here. I visited Pete's nursery over at Green Dreams. He had a farmer's, like a farmer's market garden that he did with Nick from Back to Eden. And I helped him harvest one of the days before market, and he had a bunch of cherry bells. I believe they were cherry bells, and they were doing phenomenal. So I'm fairly certain I can do this, no problem whatsoever. The Rover, I'm just looking for a larger radish, so I wanted to try that. I'm not doing daikon this year, just because I really want to go with more traditional sizing. So I'm going to do also watermelon. From a carrots perspective, I really, really love these. The new Coroto, I never know how to pronounce this. These have done exceptional. They are just a standard good orange carrot, nice and big. They've done well for me in storage. They are very heat tolerant. I love these carrots. The other one I like is a Kyoto Red, and also this one, which is the Cosmic Purple. I tried going the Purple Elite one year. Was it Purple Elite or Black Magic? I can't remember. It was like a really dark colored carrot. Ooh, that had some weird roots. The whole carrot was furry. It was very odd. But the ones right next to it, which was Cosmic Purple, they did outstanding. So I'm going with them for a second year. I am growing some warm season crops as well. So one of them is the Mercury cucumber and the Corintina. I've never grown either one of these, but these were recommendations from folks from the channel, from you guys. And I've tried many different cucumbers. I've grown Ashley, Sweet Success. I grew the Asian variety this last season. Man, I can't remember the name of it, but I'll put it down here. That one did really well. All of them do good. Okay, but I'm really looking for the ones that do like outstanding high yields. So we're giving these two a try this year. From a summer squash perspective, I'm doing Sikil, S-I-K-I-L squash. That's different. It's the seeds are so odd. Let me show you what the seeds look like. They almost have like a silver furry situation going on. I don't know what. It's very odd. And then Dunja, D-U-N-J-A. These all were recommended to me by folks that watch the channel, so I'm giving them a shot. I have had success with the summer early prolific straight squash, the yellow one. That one did okay. I did Trombicino, outstanding, does amazing. I just needed something that was smaller, so these are or I hope are smaller. We'll see. I don't know if they're bush style or if they're vining, but I'm hoping for something a little bit smaller than the Trombicino. That was very, very large. I am growing a couple of peppers. I don't usually grow peppers during this season because I have a risk of frost, sometimes freeze, but there were 2 peppers that I found that I thought was really cool looking in Quisto, I-Q-U-I-T-O-S, and then Cap 455. I'm told that these are really good sweet peppers for the area. So we're gonna give them a shot, and I can't wait. I'm too impatient to wait for spring. So I'm gonna try starting them now and see how they do through the winter. I'll probably protect them. So lettuce is the next thing that I wanna talk about. I am going all in on the Salanovas. I have many different kinds. I have the green insides, the green butter, and then I have a garden mix of green and red, which I'm very excited about. I love Salanova. It lasts all through the entire season. It is so sweet and so good. It handles the heat. It's outstanding. If you've had trouble with lettuce, you have to get those. They're so good. And apparently they are a type that's open pollinated, so you can save your seeds. I couldn't get them to go to seed. I don't know what was up with my garden this year. I couldn't get the prism kale to go to seed, and I couldn't get the Salanovas to go to seed. So I don't know, maybe it was something I did wrong. I might have crowded them out, we'll see. I don't typically grow like iceberg lettuce because I thought it was impossible here. But this is Hanson Improved crisp head lettuce. And last year I got a little head. I wasn't even really trying. I just put it in to see what would happen. And I got one with a little head. It wasn't like super tight, but it was close enough. And it was a really fun lettuce. It wasn't like your typical iceberg. It was more frilly. The leaves reminded me more of like a softer romaine. It was actually really, really nice. So I'm gonna try it again and see if I have luck. The mescaline mix was really nice. It added a lot of different types of lettuce. It has here bull's blood, Bloomingdale spinach, black-seeded Simpson, red salad bowl, tender green mustard. It has a bunch of different kinds in here, and I feel like the mix was really nice in our salads to add to the Salanovas. And then this one was recommended by the Millennial Gardener. I really like him. I think he's like in North Carolina, so he's got some of our same heat, and he goes for the giant Caesar. I planted this last year. Didn't do that great. I planted it in the midst of my potatoes, and my potatoes outgrew it, which I found very odd. So I'm gonna start this again, but I'm gonna put it in a place where it can get the sun that it needs and it's not crowded out by the potatoes, and see how it does. Now let's talk potatoes. I am growing my cow white and the golden nugget. I grew those two last year. I also grew a Yukon Gold. I'm not messing with Yukon Gold anymore. It just doesn't do well in my garden. I don't know. Apparently to other people it does really well in their Florida garden, not to me. So cow white and golden nugget. There's two others that I want to try, but the place that I get my seed potatoes from has been out of these two varieties for a while. It was a Russian banana, and then the other one was, I think, like a Huckleberry Gold. Those are the two that I wanted to try. They're not known for this climate, so don't take that away from that. They're not known for Florida, but I'm always into trying new things. So then we have onions. I saved a bunch of onions from my starts that I got from Dixondale Farms. I usually get my onion starts from them. They haven't been the best the last couple years, but they still grow and they still produced a really good harvest for me. So, I mean, that's okay. There are other places that you can get them from where the seedlings or the starts don't look as bad. They looked pretty bad when I got them. But I took those seeds and I planted them, and I have a great germination rate. I also have the Texas Early White, the super sweet Texas Granex, which is like a Vidalia onion, and then I have the red Creole. For garlic, I'm growing the one that has always worked well for me. It's Inchlim Red, along with another variety. It's in the freezer. I will put the name down here. I can't remember it. It's new to me. I've never tried to grow it. There's also another variety that I'm growing called Transylvania. One of the viewers mentioned it to me, and I saw his harvest. He sent me some pictures of it, and it was really nice. They were large, especially the really full-size ones. It was a very large head, and it is a soft neck garlic. And so I bought some of those, and we're gonna try those as well. So those are the three garlics that I'm growing this year. For strawberries, I'm gonna be growing Chandler and Brilliance. I'm trying to get my hands on one more variety. We'll see how that goes. But I'm getting bare roots for those. I have some that made it over summer in our garden, and they didn't do great. Like, I usually can perennialize at least 50% of my plants. This year it was more like 30%. It was just really awful for them, and I'm not really sure exactly what was different this year as opposed to our previous summers, but many of them did not make it through. So I did get some bare roots. Now I am not a huge fan of bare roots. I like buying the actual plants because I just have had so much trouble through the years getting bare roots to take. But I'm gonna give them a shot again because I did finally have good success with growing strawberries in a green stalk and not in the beds. And I'd like to see if maybe I can replicate that, but using bare roots. So we're gonna give that a shot. For tomatoes, I'm kind of jumping around, sorry guys. I got a lot of tomatoes. I'm doing the Heart of Sombro, the Panto Romanesque. This one was given to me by one of the viewers at in my P.O. box. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to grow it. It looks like such a pretty tomato, so we're gonna be trying that one. Kiwola, which is now my newfound favorite. The Red Currant, tiny little currant tomato, kind of like an Everglade, but I feel like they hold up better. The Everglades, when you pick them, the skin peels right off. Like it just doesn't, you have to pick them and eat them almost immediately. The Red Currant, on the other hand, when you pick them off, they don't break the skin. And so I love this kind because I collect thousands of these tomatoes from like one plant, and I make a salsa, and I also make a spaghetti sauce with them. And it is out of this world, one of the best sauces I've ever made in my life, which is weird, I know, because using cherry tomatoes to make sauce is like against all things, but it's good. The large red cherry, it's just a great solid cherry tomato. They're very large cherry tomatoes, and they did well for me. Black cherry, I'm gonna give these a shot again. I tried to grow these several years ago. They didn't do well, and so I abandoned them. But everyone talks about them being good, so I'm gonna give them another shot. And then Donna, she is another viewer of the channel who sent me these in my P.O. box. These are her Donna's, I call them Donna's purple heirloom tomatoes. It's some variety that she found at a farmer's market here in Florida that they grow down here, and she saved the seeds from her tomato with their permission, and she sent them to me, and I loved the flavor of these. Oh my gosh, these are amazing for BLTs. So I'm gonna try growing those again. From a squash perspective, I'm growing my Seminole pumpkins. There are standard squash, it's what we eat most of, but the one that I really love the flavor of is buttercup squash. It just tastes so good. It's hard for me to grow them in spring because our pest pressure mounts as we move into spring, and they have really bad pest pressure. But in fall, I hope that they're gonna do better because our pest pressure goes down. The other thing I'm growing is a lot of beans. So I'm growing 3 different kinds of green beans. It's a bush lake, it's a provider, and a contender are the 3 green beans. I'm also doing a French petite green bean. I'm gonna try that one. And then I'm doing a lot of dry beans. So I'm doing my red beans, my cranberry beans, my cannelloni beans, and my light red kidney beans. This is the time of year I love to grow all of those types of beans. And they usually do very well. They've already sprouted and they're growing plants, and some of them have flowers. It's gonna be no time at all before those are all ready. Other things you can grow would be things like eggplants, melons, and corn. I typically don't grow any of those during the fall season, only because you're leading into colder weather, and these are plants that like to lead into warmer weather. Corn is one of the ones that I have seen people have success with growing in fall. It's completely possible. The further south you are, the better off you're gonna be. Same with eggplant. But melons, y'all, it just, when the temperatures at night get a little cold, the melons just don't like it. They like hot weather. I mean, like summer weather. You gotta battle the bugs, which is rough. But they really prefer going from the spring into the summer season, not from, you know, our summer into the fall season. They don't like that reverse. So it's not like it's impossible. It's definitely possible, and if you want to do it, definitely do it. Just know that it feels like they're going to be slower. They're going to take a lot longer, and they're not going to be as vigorous as they would be if you did it in spring to summer versus summer to fall. So that's all the things I'm growing in my winter garden. Head down to the comments, let me know what you're growing in yours. Let me know if you have varieties that you love, because I love hearing from you guys. And as you can see, I take a lot of those recommendations and I go and get those seeds and I start trying to grow them in my garden to see if I experience the same thing, and then I share that with you guys. So let's be a community, let's help each other. Head down to the comments, leave your favorite varieties. Happy gardening, guys.